Hi, my name is Steve Kidwell with Northwest Safety Solutions located in the beautiful state of Oregon. Actually, I'm better known as Safety Steve. What I would like to do at this time is just take a couple minutes and explain why I do not think that MSHA should change the workplace exam from where it is at this point. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of times it's easy for us to say, well, let's just change a law, that'll make things safer. But in reality, a lot of times that's not the case. What I have found in my years in the mining industry, and especially working as an MSHA inspector, that what is really lacking is an understanding of what the intent or the purpose of the law is. And so that's what I'd like to do at this point, is to actually dissect this law a little bit and help you to appreciate that if we just look at the principle or the intent of the law, we'll understand that maybe we just haven't understood how to apply this law, so to speak, to make mine and miners safety. The law that is in question is the one found in work examination and workplace exams, and the law basically says this: a competent person designated by the operator shall examine each working place at least once each shift for conditions which may adversely affect safety and health. Now let's just stop right there, because what is really the intent or the principle of this standard from the very beginning? If you look at it, and we're going to, like I said, we're going to dissect it a little bit, but notice the first couple of words there that are important is a competent person designated by the operator. According to the definitions MSHA, a competent person means a person having abilities and experience that fully qualify him or her to perform the duty to which he is assigned. So right there tells us that the first part of this safety equation, so to speak, is the person that's doing the exams. And that person should be knowledgeable, should have the experience to be able to do what? Identify hazards. But now as we continue on, notice what it says about the examinations. This competent person designated by the operator shall examine each working place. Well, what is it talking about when it says working place? And this is important for us to understand, because this will help us to appreciate the overall intent or purpose behind this standard, the way it was written. Again, if we turn to working places, the definition, a working place means any place in or about a mine where work is being performed. Now the key word to me there is where work is being performed. And yes, I know that it's been challenged in courts. And that's the sad thing. That's unfortunately where we a lot of times lose the original intent and the purpose of any law. But when it says where work is being performed, and we think about what we're actually talking about as far as workplace examinations, it's saying that a competent person, someone with experience, someone that knows what they're looking for, are supposed to examine places where people are working. Think about that. Doesn't that make a lot of sense? You see, if we do the exams prior, or the law changes and says, oh, we need to do them before shift, which I'm not saying we don't need to do examinations, but maybe we don't need to change this law. But the intent up to this point is that competent person is going to examine working places. So we're talking about places where people are actually performing work. And I ask you this: how many accidents occur where no one's around? It's impossible. So again, that helps us to appreciate the intent of this. It's not so much this law, in my opinion, was not developed as like in the underground coal, where you have or metal, non-metal, sometimes you have pre-shift examination, but it was designed to help, especially small operations and larger ones, but to help them to see the importance of making sure that where people are working at the time, that the area they're working in is safe. But what we have done with this standard, and I've seen it myself, is mine operators are required to do a walk-around examination, and then most of the time they check boxes off that shows items they've checked. Why? Well, so they got a piece of paper that shows that they've done it. When in fact, we're kind of missing out on the intent of this law. So going back to what we were just talking about, when we look at the intent, well then MSHA wants to say, well, it needs to be done prior to shift. Well, an examination or a walk-around examination is very good to do prior to shift and should be done. But this law is very important. But also notice what it continues to say here. It says a competent person designated by the operator shall examine each working place at least how often? Once each shift. Now think about that. Does it say only one time each shift? No, it says at least once each shift. So again, stop and go back to when this was written. And think about the principle about what this standard is trying to say. A competent person making examinations where a person is actually working at least once each shift. The fact is if you change it and require before shift, or just leave it open for the courts to decide, in my eyes, we're putting miner safety in jeopardy. What it really comes down to is it comes down to an understanding of what the intent of the law is, and in putting that into practice. So really what needs to happen in the mining industry is a better education or understanding of what this law says. Now, last but not least, it says a competent person designated by the operator shall examine each working place at least once each shift for what? For conditions which may adversely affect safety or health. That word condition has a lot of meaning as well. A condition can be a practice. A condition can be a safety defect. A condition can be many things, but the point of this standard is that that person is looking at where work is being performed to make sure that there are no safety defects, to make sure that who's performing the work is doing it properly. That's the intent of this law. So changing it, is it going to make it safer for the miners? I will argue that it will not.